What is good, guys and gals, and welcome to the Films and Pixels Podcast, episode 19. I'm your host, Afif. Now, for this week's topics, there's a lot that I want to discuss, and thankfully I have some topics and ideas that I want to talk about. So first, I wanted to review The Northman. I know that the movie, I think, came out last month, mid to late April, but it arrived like a week ago in cinema, so it's a good thing I got to see it. Some news regarding Daredevil and Disney Plus. I'll get on to that. Speaking of Disney Plus, I'll be talking about the controversy regarding She-Hulk, attorney at Law CGI, and why that has made a lot of people upset. Plus, my experience finally going back playing Middle-earth: Shadow of War. Also, I want to react and give my thoughts on why I'm not okay with this Stanley Licensing deal that was announced. Plus, I'm going to react to 3 major trailers. Just give my quick thoughts on it. And what did Master Chief do? Master Chief did what? I mean, Master Chief did what on TV? Oh my god, yo. I'm like, it's crazy and kind of terrible at the same time. Kind of a mess, but yeah, I'll speak on that in a moment. But before I move forward and get on with episode 19, if you have not done so before, as I've said, subscribe to the channel, like and follow the pages, comment in the comment section below. The engagement is always welcome. And again, subscribe. It helps an independent channel like this. And also don't forget to listen on the streaming platforms, wherever you got them, whatever you use. Anrami, Spotify, Deezer, Google Podcasts, and more. So please listen to them. But, without further ado, let's get going. Alright, so now I think it was very recently, The Northman has been released to theaters, even though it's been premiering and showcasing since April. Press interviews from director Robert Eggers as well, and the cast members, so I'm happy to finally talk about this movie. And in order to really understand this kind of movie, you have to go back to his other 2 films, like The Witch and The Lighthouse, which... awkward wording. What I should say, both films, as they are otherwise excellent films, but the tone can be very dark and aggressive, and this movie is no exception. And even watching it like in the first act, especially early on, it became immediately clear there's a lot of these scenes where the actors are like in these pitch dark black rooms with like these soft warm lights, and once again speaking like this old Shakespearean English that's been used and seen before. So it's not like, again, like if you know Robert Eggers, his early filmmaking work, like it's you get the idea what's gonna come. But I still like the cast, Alexander Skarsgård, the main character of Prince Amaleth. This is a revenge tale. And once again, there's Anya Taylor-Joy, Willem Dafoe. Eggers has worked with both of them before on his other 2 films, so it's no shock that they signed up for this movie. So it's a good thing. And part of the reason why this whole movie finally came together, it's because Skarsgård, I don't know, Skarsgård, I think there's some kind of accent mark on his name, but I'm just gonna try Skarsgård. For several years, he's from Sweden, so he really wanted to, act and play in this kind of Viking movie as well. And after meeting with Eggers, he finally got the project ongoing and collaborated with him, so that's a really good thing. And the more as I'm watching The Northman throughout, it immediately became clear that this is so much again, another Shakespearean inspiration of his play Hamlet, the one where a young prince, witnesses the death of his father from his uncle, grows up, avenges him, and takes his rightful place. That story might actually seem familiar. Hamlet, I'm sure you're aware by now, was used in The Lion King. So, in a way, this movie and The Lion King mirror Hamlet. Although in terms of tone and violence and all that, you can tell it's totally different. One is obviously more friendly, family friendly, and kids and all that. So you get the idea there. But it doesn't really stay in that overall story arc from Hamlet. I noticed in the third film, there's like this unexpected twist from one of the characters played by Nicole Kidman. I don't want to spoil it, but I thought that was a well thought of twist. And again, before I go on, can I just say something here? Is it me, or like, does there seem to be more of these like, I don't know, like aggressive, almost violent scenes between Skarsgård and Nicole Kidman? What is up with that? Like, it was running in my mind, and like, even after that kind of scene together in the third act, how is it that they were like okay with working together after, all the crazy violence from Big Little Lies between both of them? Like, I would have just been like, you know what, a lot happened, just move on. So like, I think the fact that both of them seemingly were okay with working together again was kind of unexpected to me, but yeah, like, anyway, so again, this is the kind of movie, there's no fear or any shortage of showing any blood, rims being cut out, even like organs. So I'm fine with that. I like the gore, so it's not exactly a surprise that there's the gore. And this is like a revenge tale. How historically accurate it is, I think that's up for debate. There's some inaccuracies as well. There was supposed to be, I think, somewhere like a battle scene. There's Viking culture. They scavenge and they take over the lands. If you're familiar with the Vikings TV series, that Vikings raid farms and villages. So of course there was something like that, and kidnapping kids and women. You get the idea. It's the kind of Viking culture of conquering villages in a small boat as a small group, and that's no exception there in the second act after Prince Amalith grows up, So, and I think it was supposedly, I think it was somewhere in England, but just for the filming. But what I'm trying to say is that in terms of, again, historical accuracies, they were supposedly going to film in Ukraine. But we know the situation in Ukraine. I don't need to or want to get onto that. So things just had to change for filmmaking purposes, But yeah, like, also in Iceland, part of the story was also in Iceland from the second, even throughout the third act. That was the important thing as well. And so like Amalith was in, pretending to be a slave, befriending Olga, played by Anya Taylor-Joy. Obviously their own relationship further developed from there, and even willingly stabbed and killed his stepbrothers Thorir, and yeah, there's another one. So you get the idea of how a lot of blood and gore, all that stuff. Now, I liked his performance once again for Alexander Skarsgård. For someone who's done like, the roles, whether it's Big Little Lies or even like we saw The Legend of Tarzan, he's good with this sort of thing of being like this character filled with rage. So he brought the rage once more in this movie, and I thought that was a well-played performance there. So I definitely recommend this movie. It is definitely worth a watch, and I like the twist. If there's anything I liked, is that the opening shot, the first frame, was in this volcano, and then it ends in a volcano. So again, I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm spoiling some plot points, but I mean, it's been a month anyway. But that's what I really liked more than anything, like how it started and how it ended, in terms of like using the volcano and sort of thing and all that. Of course, there was also Ethan Hawke. He was only there in the beginning. He was played Amlet's father as his king. So we don't need to get much into that. Of course, Willem Dafoe, kind of like his, not creepy, but almost like this villainous sort of thing. Not really a villain, but you kind of tell, like, there are still some Green Goblin vibes that I really liked, is what I'm trying to say, you know? And he met his fate, but so it's a good thing, like, it concentrated more on Amleth, you know, and seeing as Olga's future, he wanted to make the sacrifice, realizing that if Fjolnir is gone, you know, his own family will be safe. And again, like, you know, listening and watching the way they were speaking this old Shakespearean English, like, it was easy to follow along the plot. You know, it was easy to understand, because that's how his other two films for Robert Eggers was done before. So again, if you're familiar with his other films, you'll understand this one. This is still definitely worth a watch. Not perfect, but still an excellent film. Still has, like, already what I think is, like, early trademarks of, like, intense, aggressive, you know, filming in dark rooms, soft, warm lights. These are just little elements that I've noticed thus far in his movies. But yeah, if you haven't caught it in cinemas by now, go ahead. It's probably the best chance before other movies come in June. So the majority of you may be aware by now that news broke that a Daredevil, possibly continuation series, will go on and really be in development on Disney Plus. So Daredevil series coming to Disney Plus, it's just in the development stage. What does that mean? Is this a reboot of the series that we saw throughout 3 seasons on Netflix? Or is this going to be a season 4 but on Disney Plus, or a reboot? Is it going to be the same lead actor, Charlie Cox, in it? At least I hope he comes back. He did, after all, make a very nice, awesome cameo in No Way Home. So I hope he does come back. It would be weird if it's a reboot, but I hope, again, I like it if there is season 4. It does make sense to continue the story left off from the 3rd season when he finally dealt with Wilson Fisk. In that regard, I'm just a little concerned about something, and this won't be a surprise when I mention it. It's about the whole Disney branding. It's no surprise or any secret that they're more of a family-friendly company, one of those family-friendly companies that doesn't tolerate much violence, gore, blood, torn off organs and limbs and all that stuff, you know, all that sort of R-rated content that we saw on Netflix, you know, and throughout the 3 seasons, it really did get a lot of critical acclaim. Now, maybe some people may feel a little differently about season 2. Season 2 was still very good. I didn't think the whole Frank Castle Punisher introduction was so much of a distraction. I know that maybe it might have gotten the way for some people, but I like that whole Punisher thing and the two of them fighting. But still, going back to the Disney Plus development, I think, like, again, I'm glad that it'll continue. There is an announcement, but it's still very early, so I take it with some level of excitement, like, cautiously optimistic. You know, just be cautiously optimistic, because this is a really good thing. Like, when you think of the previous Marvel Netflix shows, you know, there was that one in particular, and I guess I would say Luke Cage, very well liked. Jessica Jones, very good. I'll talk about Jessica Jones in just a bit. I was fine with the Defenders limited series. It's Iron Fist that clearly was, like, the black sheep, the ugly duckling, really the lowest rating and most disappointing, the more disappointing of the Netflix shows. So throughout the Defenders saga, as it's called, and plus there was 2 seasons of The Punisher. But again, I apologize not to deviate further from the main topic, but I think this is a wait and see approach on where it'll go from there. But if it's going to tone down the aggression, the darkness, even the violence, even, like, less of the blood, I think it sort of takes away the identity of what really worked in the first place. on Netflix. But we kind of knew this was happening when the whole licensing agreement came to an end at some point. So yeah, we'll just I think if we're just patient, maybe the results that we're looking for may come. Another Disney Plus trailer was just available online, and it's the She-Hulk Attorney at Law limited series. I don't know if it's going to be just a limited one series thing or there's going to be a second season, but it is coming August 17, Disney Plus. Another MCU related show throughout the Phase 4 era. All good to see and all that good stuff. But there's just one obvious problem. Everyone that's watched the trailer has been very vocal and very much upset about the CGI. Now look, like, we can't just go start backlashing and attacking everyone involved in this project, even though it's understandable. Visual effects artists have made it clear that if this is what the heads at Marvel wanted, then this is what's going to happen. How the CGI will be used, all that good stuff. So we just have to accept it. From now until August 17, maybe it'll improve, but we just have to accept and understand that there has to be budget cuts made into like how the CGI is used on the character. I still like the trailer for the most part. I'm glad Mark Ruffalo is coming back as Bruce Banner Hulk. I was kind of surprised that Tim Roth is back as Emil Blonsky. Here's the thing. I love how with Tim Roth coming back as Emil Blonsky, this is the second time he's playing the role since 2008's The Incredible Hulk. It's almost like in recent years, there's been so much effort to just making sure we know and remember, like, yeah, that movie, that was still an MCU film. It's the second MCU film. That still happened. That was still in Phase 1. It's just kind of interesting how there are like little subtle ways of like reminding us. Of course, there's still going to be Abomination in the limited series. Even Abomination was seen in Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings. And even Wong will come back for the show. So I just love how there are like little things that just kind of like letting us know, like, hey, remember that movie? It was still there. Don't forget about it. It's still like letting us know. I only saw the trailer once, but like enough photos and all kind of memes like letting us know like complaints about CGI and like how it was used even for the character of Jennifer Walters, like being green in her day-to-day life as a lawyer or dating men in restaurants. So I think like maybe like in those civilization moments, interacting with normal people, that could have been cut down, save the money. But we just have to understand that as impressive as maybe like a lot of major TV shows that use special effects are, we just have to accept that certain studios, certain production companies have, I guess, the limited budget of the effects used for some scenes or for some of the characters. There has to be some cutbacks, is what I'm trying to say. There has to be some cutbacks in how much of the CGI can be used. It's not different where, you can have a lot of money and support from major film studios when doing a full feature length movie itself. So let's say like, if that whole serialized format of She-Hulk Attorney at Law was instead filmed as a whole movie instead of I think 6 or 9 episode, I think it may have been done differently through production phase. So I think that's just my take on it. I find the reactions and the complaints kind of interesting, but if these are the early indications, I'm kind of worried that this might turn into a major flop in the Phase 4 era. And Phase 4 has so far, not terrible or anything, but not exactly the most favorable. There have been some pretty good TV side of things throughout Phase 4, at least from last year. But I mean, like, if the trailer showed us anything, is that this might actually be a major flop, like one of those 6 out of 10 sort of things. It's too early to tell. the schedule is already now in May, since like the beginning of the month. Multiverse of Madness, and then June will be for Miss Marvel. July is for Thor: Love and Thunder, and then August is for She-Hulk: Attorney at the Law. So we can, like, you can tell, like, from here till August. I don't know about the rest of that. There's already some pretty good Marvel Phase 4 content coming in. But still, at least we have a lot to look forward to. Let's just see how the final product goes on TV. Alright, so for this topic, I wanted to bring into attention and to light because I think this is something that I really wanted to mention. And it's about this news regarding this whole Stanley licensing deal, where it seems like there's now a new agreement that they can use digital archive footage of Stanley and more MCU cameos. And you know what? For me personally, I'm not on board with this idea. I don't like it in the slightest. Like, it just, to me, it just looks like his memories are somewhat being used for corporate cash grab and sort of in violation, of his likeness, so to speak. And I'm not sure that even the family estate of Stanley, especially his daughter and maybe some of his extended relatives as well. I don't know. I'm sure like they had some sort of say. Like maybe to me, like it's clear that they somehow gave permission for this to happen. And I'm not sure it's a great idea unless it's a way for them to also get some sort of financial compensation. I mean, I know that like his cameos throughout like phase 1 through phase 3, they've always been memorable and all that good stuff, especially like non-MCU films, even before and after the whole franchise started. But I just don't think like it's such a wise idea. It doesn't feel right to me, If you wanted to use a cameo, why not like, just in my suggestion, how about someone like Deadpool and like one of those scenes where he does like funny cameos? I know like as well as an actor like Ryan Reynolds, very much busy acting, maybe even producing other films, whether it's on Netflix, which he's been very much active on, or on other projects. But either Deadpool or like don't do any cameo at all. Like it doesn't look right at the end. You know what I mean? Like we've seen some movies since then, or really like all of them since the phase 3. By the time phase 4 has started, like no kind of cameo. And while it is a bit awkward, it's like fine that like you're not violating someone's memory in the name of cash grab, corporate cash grab, I just don't think it's the wisest idea. That's why like it bothers me, because like you can't just do that, like just use archive footage of someone, just place them in a scene, and it's like, okay, nice to see you again, but like it's not authentic and real. I don't like how this sort of deal will present itself as lacking authenticity of the real person in a single scene in every frame. So yeah, I hope this sort of deal doesn't go on, because I just would have preferred personally if it just stops. Here's the thing for me that I want to mention. Recently I decided to go back into my gaming catalog. And one of the games that I'm really glad that a long time ago I got at a cheap price and played once more is Middle-earth: Shadow of War. And you know what? I'm really glad I did. I actually really, really do like this game. It is seriously fantastic. Now look, a lot of critics and maybe some fans like to give it a 7 out of 10 kind of score, even 7.5. I think it deserves 8 out of 10 or even 9 out of 10. Like 8 or higher is really the right score for me. Now granted, I get it. Initially, there was some backlash regarding the recent addition, not recent, but random addition, I should say, of microtransactions. I mean, for a single player open world type game, I think that was really weird, and it did turn off a lot of people. So since then, like, it was completely removed and the game is better for it. So yeah, the whole microtransactions thing was kind of weird, especially since at a time when other companies did upset a lot of the consumers for microtransactions, whether in sports games or shooting games. So that was a wise choice at the time. So definitely the gameplay I thought like really improved significantly from its previous game back in 2014, Shadow of Mordor. Shadow of War was released in 2017, so there was a 3-year gap between both games. So again, like gameplay significantly improved in so many ways that like the flow of the movement, the combat, it's just really great. Like it really gets you into it. Story wise, from beginning to end, it's all right. It's still pretty good, mostly solid. I would say like it's still on par from Shadow of Mordor. You know, I thought like both are still pretty good, pretty solid. So that's fine by me. Even graphically, I thought like even graphically there was more of an uptick. Even the character models look better, especially Italian. And then like recently I went back to Shadow of Mordor, and I still like the graphics. I don't know. I was still surprised how even impressive the graphics of Mordor really were, you know. And if there's anything I like about the Nemesis system, which is a really unique and somewhat innovative gaming mechanic that since then has been patented so that it's not used so much in other games, it's like these personal interactions with enemies. I mean, like, it's kind of fascinating. You meet like enemy orcs, whether they're captains, war chiefs, or even overlords, right? And I don't know, like, the writing team like came up with all these like seriously well clever dialogue. Like, how is it that they came up with like all these lines for all these orcs? It's really amazing, the algorithm, the AI enemies, how they're used. And you know what? It's like even the battles between them are more personal. Yes, there are stats about strengths and weaknesses, but now either they can betray you, defy death, even ambush you randomly, you know, or if they have a blood brother, they'll take vengeance on you. Or even like one of the best parts, you can send like as when you recruit an orc and force them, as you dominate their mind, you recruit them, you can make them their spy, infiltrate war chiefs, and eventually betray them. You know, so like now the battles become much more tougher and personal. Like as once more, even when you fight orcs, the more they come at you, the more overwhelming. So I like how that can be really challenging as well, you know? And of course, there's that whole obligatory skill tree, which is fine by me. If there's anything, I like how you acquire a major skill first. And then there's like these other skills that modifies the main one. You know what I mean? Like these little modifications for a skill that you need to acquire with a skill point that modifies the ability that you have, and like you can change it. You can only pick one like out of the 2 or 3. You'll know what I mean when you like see some sort of gameplay footage on YouTube. It's really cool as it allows you to customize sort of your play style and how you deal with the enemies in different worlds, you know? Okay, so if there's one thing I sort of had an issue with, I would say it's the design of Sheelop. Sheelop is like this famous spider, well-known spider creature. I think from the Middle Earth novels and all that, especially in the Lord of the Rings trilogy films, I think in the second and third film, if I'm correct, just more like this giant spider. So it was a bit weird, like the Sheelop design was more of like this woman-like, almost human figure, you know, and even like seductive in an evil way. It's kind of a bit weird. But if you do like the side quest of collecting Sheelop memories, seeing the past and future, you do see that transformation. But I just thought that was a bit weird, the Sheelop character design. Unlike before, previous game, 2 regions to go through, conquer, find collectibles and all that. There's still the collectibles and all that good stuff. This time, there's 5 regions to go to. So the world of Mordor is really expanded in this game that I really liked. And if there's a new gameplay addition I really liked, is not just building up your army, but upgrading your sieges. That way, because like eventually you're gonna have to conquer fortresses. You know, like as Italian, you have to have a higher level up to be powerful enough to take down fortresses and conquer them. take down the overlords, build up your army, strengthen your army. So I really like how that's really cool. Like you can conquer an army and take over fortresses. You're gonna have to eventually to advance and progress through the story. That's something that I really liked. I thought that was really cool. So I'm glad there wasn't the whole microtransactions thing. What else? I also like some of the expansion packs. I thought that was pretty cool. There are two single player expansions playing different characters, and I liked how there's even expansions throughout the regions in the open world, like Outlaw and Slaughter tribes. You know, there's something, one tribe called the Outlaw, another called the Slaughter tribes. You know, there's like enemy captains, so you could also dominate or kill them as well. And I think that was pretty cool, just adding more of a challenge. You know, I thought that was pretty cool. So in addition to riding and dominating two creatures known as Karagors and Grogs from previously, you know, that gameplay and mechanic is back once more. And in addition to that, there are these dragon type creatures. They're called drakes. You could dominate a drake, fly with a drake, and then either use like ice or fire power, breathing ice and fire. So I thought that was that's something that I really like. Overall, like, my impressions of this game are really high. It is definitely like really replayable. I like especially, you know, another way of like when you're in the mid-air, you can aim with your bow and arrow, and as you're aiming with your bow and arrow mid-air, you know, you can slow down in mid-air. So I thought that was really cool as well. You know, a lot of these new skills additions I really liked. If there's another issue regarding how the gameplay is, I thought a little weird how some of the skills that players are familiar with before that they had to acquire, you have to do that again. You know what I mean? It would have been better if, like, you know, Shadow Strike, for example, was available by default, but you have to progress through and acquire it again with the skill points. But otherwise, it's just a minor issue, but it's not the biggest of problems. It's just something that I've observed, but it's not a problem at all. It doesn't really change the fact that this is a fantastic game. I think one that's just underappreciated, but maybe initial impressions may have turned off some people, especially the whole microtransactions thing. But yeah, I mean, if you got it on, I mean, if you have a powerful enough PC, you know, it may go up above 30 FPS, but even if you have the newer PlayStation, Xbox consoles, like, you know, I think this is one to get, especially like at a very affordable, cheap price, you know. So you probably know about the best of lists of some other games, but this one is not awful. This is a must-have in my humble opinion. You got to get Shadow of War. Okay, so in recent days, or I should say really in like the last 2-3 weeks, actually, you know, there have been some major trailers for big blockbusters that are coming soon, whether it's in cinema or in streaming. So first, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, the first trailer was Avatar: The Way of Water. And, you know, first thought in my mind, just looking at it, it's clear once more a huge part of the grand scale is being presented once again. You know, especially, I remember the name, this like alien looking blue Navi tribe. Yeah. And I expect, I think it's already confirmed Zoe Saldana will come back, but, you know, again, there's still this grand scale, people living or fighting for their lives, protecting their colony. I could tell like there's this theme of family because there's this line at the end of the trailer I really liked. But also, is there anything between Navi and human relationship improving? I don't really remember. Maybe I might have seen it a second time, but I think it's a good idea to watch it just in time for this new one. But you can tell so much of it. I think, you know, just like the first film, I think there's going to be so much more concentration of being more cutting edge, high-tech visual spectacle kind of film. I'm sure there's maybe a family themed sort of storyline of protecting each other as a family or whatever it may be. because one of the characters supposedly has a young child. But I can tell, like, just like back in 2009 with the first Avatar film directed by James Cameron, I think this will try to push for the technology of using so much special effects and CGI. And so this is where I think a huge part of the budget is, which actually it is anyway. So yeah. And somewhere in the trailer, like, it looked like construction scenes and drones and looked like battling in a submarine. A line that I really like, someone said, our family is our fortress. So that line is something I think that was really powerful and meaningful. So I could tell, like, it could be a good movie. At least I hope so. I doubt it'll be like such a great story kind of film, because I don't even remember much before, except two colonies fighting for each other, or the humans trying to find some sort of special resource for their needs. That kind of storyline. Okay. Second trailer, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. That's the second trailer I saw that came out in recent days. It's going to come 2023. That's already confirmed. When next year, not yet known. But I'm definitely looking forward to that. I'm not really... it's not clear who or what the enemy is. A few things that I noticed in that trailer. New cast members. First, Haley Atwell and Vanessa Kirby joining the cast. That's for sure. Huge majority of the characters and actresses that we're familiar with. Even, I think, Simon Pegg, Vin Rhames, Rebecca Ferguson. They're all coming back. That's a good thing. Of course, Tom Cruise is coming back. Someone, like a character in the trailer was saying, the fight against the enemy is over or something like that. But as expected, like, high spectacle action sequences, maybe something that we haven't seen before. I mean, who knows what's going to happen after, what's it been? 6 or 7 Mission Impossible movies, and still one of the more popular, highest grossing action franchises in the world. So it's good to see, like, where the story will take Ethan Hunt. I'm curious to know. I'd like to see it where it goes. I really liked Fallout, the Mission Impossible Fallout. Great movie, and one of the best Tom Cruise films. So that's definitely something I like. So other than the casting members, supposedly there's this actor. He's supposed to be like a main antagonist. He looks familiar. I don't know his name. I remember his face from that Titans TV series. He played Slade Wilson. I think it's his second or third season, or mostly in one of those seasons. I know that he played Slade Wilson, so I expect him to kind of be like more of an antagonist again, and what his role sort of means to the journey of kind of storytelling of Ethan Hunt. Yeah, Ethan Hunt. So, I think there's the impossible task of being just as good as whether it's, I think, Ghost Recon. Ghost something, but definitely Fallout, a follow-up to Fallout. That'll be tough to do. Okay, definitely a big one. Thor, Love and Thunder. There's finally an actual trailer. This was released during halftime of Game 4 of the NBA Eastern Conference Finals. So it's good that we finally got like a trailer. Much is seen, more of Jane Foster as the mighty Thor. That was good to watch. Kind of to showcase more of Thor, the female Thor. That was pretty cool. Nice to see Natalie Portman back. I think after what happened in Thor: The Dark World, she wasn't happy being this damsel in distress sort of thing. So she wanted to take more action roles after meeting Taika Waititi. And so that's really great. Too bad she wasn't back in Ragnarok, but it's fine. Anyway, back here. Of course, Valkyrie coming back. That's pretty cool. Expect more action sequences from her. Finally, after all that anticipation waiting, we got to see what Christian Bale will look like as Gar, the God Butcher. Those were probably the more memorable shots and moments of the trailer to me. Not just his lines. I really liked how he looked, kind of like this ghoul-like, ghostly look design. So much white paint. Clearly, like Christian Bale has a lot of body paint on him. It's nice to see a bit authentic look. You know, even villain-like demeanor, the sort of greenish, yellowish eyes sort of thing, a mixture of those colors. His demeanor, you know, vowing to kill all gods and all that. So that was something I really liked to see as well. Oh, and even like in his scenes being shot in the trailer, like it was totally like more of this black and white look, you know. So that was something I really enjoyed as well. Of course, by the end of the trailer, we got to see Russell Crowe, how he looks like as Zeus. It's good to see Zeus in the movie. Me personally, I'm a fan of Greek mythology. I love Greek mythology, so I'm glad like parts of Greek mythology will be seen and explored further in this movie. That's very good to know and see. Also, early on in the trailer, I think this was a mistake because we saw the mighty Thor with her helmet, and then like Thor Odinson without his helmet. Yeah, it looked like a weird mistake to me. He wears the classic Thor helmet, and she doesn't when they both look at each other. Even the helmet like kind of moved in a weird way. Like there was something weird that was edited in that trailer when Thor was surprised that Jane gets to wield Mjolnir, you know? So if you watch the official trailer again, you'll notice that something is a bit off-putting. It's kind of like it looked like to me a technical mistake, you know. And you know, it's really fascinating. Someone like Christian Bale going from a major DC film franchise to a Marvel film franchise, even being the villain. I love this post that I found saying like, "So here we go again, keeping the tradition alive. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain." And I love the irony of this post with Christian Bale playing the heroic Batman, and then now he's playing Gar, the God Butcher. So I thought that was I love that sense of humor there. Okay, so one more trailer. This time it's a Netflix film. It is coming very soon, actually, in July, called The Gray Man, starring Ana de Armas, Chris Evans, Ryan Gosling. Yeah, Ryan Gosling. Yeah, also in this movie. To me, it's again once a more dramatic, high action type thing. It just sounds like one of those cat and mouse things. I don't know if it's like an official term. CIA operatives finding someone, chasing someone, battling a guy time and time again, and high octane car chase sequences and crashing cars and trucks together, colliding, and probably female assassin type thing for Ana de Armas' character. It's fine. I wouldn't be shocked if, once again, there's a lot of people viewing the movie on Netflix in July, but it becomes critically panned. I don't know how it'll turn out, the results and the data, but I just hope it's definitely much better than Red Notice. As much as I'm a huge fan of The Rock and I like Ryan Reynolds, Red Notice, not exactly a memorable Netflix action film for me. So yeah, exactly. I covered all 4 trailers. So those are just my thoughts and reactions regarding those major motion picture movies coming soon. That's 2 that I mentioned that's coming in July, whether it's in streaming and the theater, and then 1 supposedly in December, and then another big one sometime next year. So yeah, that's really it. That's just what I thought based on my own observation on those movies. All right, guys and gals, that pretty much wraps it up for the Films and Pixels podcast, episode 19. So that actually covers up all the topics that I wanted to speak on today. For those that have listened and watched from beginning to end, really thank you so much. I appreciate the time you took just to listen to me talk about a whole bunch of pop culture, tech topics and all that. So if you haven't done so before, watch the previous episodes, listen to them as well. Subscribe, like this video, subscribe to the channel. Comment, it's good for engagement, helps an independent channel like this. So it'd be good for me as well, much appreciated. And from here on out, good day and good night.